Hollywood Herd.
I'm Jim Young.
And this is the Smoked Debrief.
You already said that.
Today we have a special guest on our show, Nick Palmisciano, who is a best-selling author, film producer, director, writer. Nick, entrepreneur, has had a couple of companies, probably the first military brand apparel company. And he's going to join us today. But first, I'm going to tell you about the cigar we're smoking. Jim, what is it?
It's the Jack Carr from Hooten and Young.
And let me tell you about the Jack Carr, Hooten and Young cigar. It's a special cigar, special edition created in collaboration with best-selling author and retired Navy SEAL Jack Carr, honoring the premiere of his Terminal List second season. It's handcrafted at Tabacaleria Diaz Cabrera in Santiago, Dominican Republic. It's a 6.5 by 52 Toro, a Dominican Puro featuring silky Corojo wrapper, a robust Dominican grown San Andreas seed binder, and select Dominican fillers highlighted by Piloto Cubano. The Hooten Young Jack Carr is packaged in 20 count boxes with an MSRP of about $20 a cigar. You know, we've gone down the Hooten and Young rabbit hole here, and so
Yeah.
but it's because every cigar we smoke is good. So
if Dan Mercer is watching the Star of Office show, Hooten Young, Hooten Young, Hooten Young. Oh look,
Hooten Young's going to be
Hooten Young.
Hooten Young's going to be on Dan's bone to pick on the BNN Bad News Network one of these days, because we say it to him every time we see it. Speaking of Bad News Network, Jim, why don't you introduce our guest?
We've got Nick Palmisciano, who is the RangerUp guy. I'm wearing a RangerUp shirt.
I of course am not. So
we met when was it asking about Sheepdog first, and then you had John Ruge come down and they filmed.
Man, no,
It's been a while.
I think it was even before that, because I wanted to shoot at your club. I've been a member for, I don't know, a decade or something now. And I went through it the right, I applied like a regular person.
And that was when Tom was given the brief, and he was a former Marine range NCO. So when he spoke, everybody, I had him too. Now it's they don't seem to get the message, but Tom was. When he told you, you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, yeah. It's a friendlier range now.
Yeah.
It's a friendlier range.
But that, I mean, you had John Ruge there, the weapon snatcher, and that's when I met this asshole over here. And I mean, it's just been cool. And I know you asked me what I did, and I said, well, I got a little coffee shop, and we had you at the coffee shop and everything. And it was almost like everybody, when you tell them you got a coffee shop, they think of like a dentist's office.
Yep.
It has coffee. But I think Salvation is kind of like the anti-coffee shop. And it's just different.
I love it. I mean, we exclusively buy Salvation. You know this.
Yeah.
We have, I think we do 2 5-pound bags a month.
Yeah.
At the office, something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe more. Depends on the month, but yeah.
And it's much appreciated, and I mean it's bragging rights.
It's great coffee.
We supply their coffee.
It's great coffee. It really is good. I have some in here right now, actually. So.
But you, I mean, just go ahead and tell us about yourself, because I mean, you've always. I was a bit starstruck when we did the John Ruge thing, and then Hollywood was doing his best just for men with that beard.
Was that his yellow beard phase?
No,
like
this was like
dark brown beard phase.
Before he finally gave in and just said, I'm no longer young.
It's coming back, don't you worry. This week before you
But those and John Ruge was, that's an interesting cat, especially when you watch him
he's
his gun work and stuff.
He's a nice
Crazy
guy, real nice guy.
And you did Office Joe, and you you have always been supportive of the coffee shop and me, and I appreciate it. And but we want you to just
talk about RangerUp,
talk
how it
about
first got
RangerUp.
started, and how you've got it back now.
Wasn't
Yeah.
that like
Well-
the David Portnoy thing? They like bought it from you for like $500 million, and it took a shit.
They
'cause
did
didn't
not
know
buy
what
it
to
for
do with
$500 million.
And then you bought it back for
Unfortunately,
$1.
I'm sure. Before I do that, because you guys are talking about Hooten Young, and I like to annoy Dan Mercer, let me tell you about how I met Hoot. I have a friend, a mutual friend. His name's
Masood.
Masood Rashan, and Masood has done a lot of interesting work. I won't blow him up, but he's kind of like the guy that no matter where you are in the world, if you have a problem, you can call Masood and he can probably help you fix it. And I've called him a lot over the last 5-6 years.
And it's not exaggeration.
No, not like
it's the truth.
As an example, we had people trapped in Pakistan that needed a place to stay, not for like a week, but for years. And, I was wandering around Pakistan trying to figure out how to solve that problem. And I am not expert in that region. And Masood basically solved the issue in like 48 hours, which was incredible. And, he's that guy. But anyway, so Masood,
But you'd never know it because he's just the nicest.
he's not the guy that brags about his stuff, and very low key, likes to talk about gardening, cigars, and wine, and whiskey. So a guy that you guys would appreciate. You should have him on at some point. But so Masood was like, hey, why don't you come to C3 Rex with me, and which is a club in Georgetown. That is almost entirely operators and agency guys and a who's who of kind of the quiet power of DC. And so he's like, hey, I want to introduce you to some of my buddies. A lot of these guys were Rangers, so I'm sitting down and we're just like, we're eating, we're drinking. And, it's a group of like 6 people. So I don't hear everybody's name, and I'm not, and the dude's like, hey, what do you think of this whiskey? I was like, this is really good, this is
Because you are a whiskey bourbon.
I'm a big whiskey guy. I'm like, this is really good, and I'm on like my second or third glass. We're having a good time, and then finally Masood's like, well, he made it, and I'm looking at it, and it's Hooten Young, and I'm like looking at him and he's like, yeah, I'm Hoot, and I was like, oh God, because that, Black Hawk Down was like the definitive book of my generation, and then the definitive movie of my generation. And like, I remember, even like deploying to Kosovo, and everybody was like talking about, make sure that you have, don't take your plates out, in case something happens. And it was like because of Black Hawk Down. And so it was so cool to actually meet him, because I had met, years ago, I was invited to the, I think it was the 25th anniversary of Black Hawk Down that was hosted.
It was a reunion or something,
Yep,
right?
it was hosted by Ross Perot at his ranch before Mr. Perot passed. And I met basically every Ranger on that mission, and they all signed. Cool. They all signed a Dietz painting that I bought, so I have that up in the office. But Hoot was not there, so he was one of the ones that I had not yet met, and it was surreal to kind of like close that. Anyway, he, I assume that he does everything the same, which is high level, which is why the whiskey is superb. And I'm not a big enough cigar guy to be able to tell the difference, but you guys always tell me that the cigars are superb.
It's insane.
We probably smoked 10 different versions of their cigars, and every one of them is like, it's guaranteed
awesome.
An 8 out of 10, and then 3 or 4 of them have been 10 out of 10s. I mean, and completely different profiles, completely different smokes, but just amazing.
Yeah. It's nice when you have you can tell a company cares about their product, and because it comes through, and they're good, and their whiskeys. I haven't got a bourbon yet, but ABC store, supposedly I got a telephone number and I can call it and they'll get me some in a couple of days. But the whiskey is fantastic, and I don't know if you've had the Jack Carr, but it is very smooth.
I have not had the Jack Carr yet, but
we can handle.
You
it.
have a bottle though.
I do.
That I gave you for Christmas.
I do have a bottle.
I think it's the 7 or the 15 year. I'm not sure which one it was.
I love that that relationship too, because George is a fantastic human being. When we were doing the Send Me documentary after we got back from the Afghanistan evacuation, he put his name behind it without, and you, Hollywood, you know this better than anybody. Usually when somebody executive produces something,
they do nothing.
Well, not only that, but they also get a cut.
Yeah, well, of course. That's the whole purpose of them doing it.
So George, Jack Carr was like, introduced us to people at Amazon, no money, all of his own accord. I have yet to meet anybody, and including the people that like to talk shit, that have said anything other than good things about him. So, so it's that I was happy to see him get that partnership, and for them to get that partnership, and
that's great, good stuff.
Yeah,
and it's hard to write a book that's good enough to go into a TV series.
I love his books,
and his books are great.
I love his books, and I can't really do the military books.
Right.
I was a Clancy guy. I did like Tom Clancy because there was intrigue and kind of like but there are so many, military books where it's like the same character. Like
Clancy's
over and over again.
Clancy's heroes weren't superheroes though.
That's right.
They were just regular dudes that got put into a situation.
That's right.
And they were able to do their job, and that's why I like Clancy.
What I like about the Jack Carr series, the Terminalist series especially, is his characters and the challenges evolve. Like if you read the Terminalist, fantastic book. The first book is a fantastic book, but it's a pure revenge story, right? That could have been Payback, right? It's just with SEALs. It's a revenge story. But if you read, his last, the last of the Terminalist series, where he's now dealing with people getting assassinated with AI, in Teslas. There's an AI fighting another AI. He has adapted beyond the simple SEAL fighting.
And that's what's hard as a writer.
It's so hard
to adapt beyond what you start out with.
Not only that, but to maintain an audience. In a lot of ways, he's educating his audience, which may not be as educated on these topics, and still selling, a freaking million. And
not talking over their heads.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. And then what he's recently done, Cry Havoc.
Yeah, that's the one. Isn't that the one where Reese's father?
Yes.
And when he was in Vietnam. Because I love the story, like when he had his father's watch, and he does little flashbacks and stuff. So
you find out how he gets the watch. Like
that's cool.
So it goes back to Vietnam, and I don't want to say this and be disrespectful to, his core series, but I'm actually really waiting for the next Cry Havoc. Yeah, because it was damn good. It also made me think about my dad, who was a Vietnam veteran, and kind of what he was dealing with, because a lot of the missions that Thomas Reese is dealing with were special operations, and my dad was an ALO for on the Air Force side for 1st Special Forces Group. So then I'm like, I wonder if he would want to read this book, and it's really interesting stuff.
They are. I haven't got Cry Havoc yet. The last Terminalist one, I'm waiting to read it, but I read the books and then I get the audiobook as well, because that guy, is it Porter?
He's so good. Ray Porter.
Yeah, Ray Porter.
Yep.
He's it's kind of weird when he does the female voices too, because it's like,
well, he's
wow,
nowhere
he's
at
really good.
I tell you what, Ray Porter, like if it's to the point where I might listen to an audiobook if Ray Porter's doing it.
Really, that good?
Yeah, he's good.
The guy that Ray Porter and the guy that does oh god, the Red Rising series, the guy that reads for the Red Rising series, those two, if they're doing an audiobook, I'll give it a shot. If it sucks, I'll still shut it off.
That's so true though, because the guy that used to do the Jack Reacher books
Yep.
was freaking amazing.
Yeah.
And they went to a new guy.
I know.
And I couldn't listen to it because he was no longer Jack Reacher.
I had the same thing happen. I'm trying to remember what. I know what series it was. So I was done. I had just listened to. I can't remember. I had just and it recommended something just like it.
50 Shades of Grey.
No. He's a popular like military book author, but he's
Flint.
Brad Thor.
Brad Thor.
And like
Mike Flynn and Brad Thor, they're kind of the same, yeah.
And so the Scott Horvath series, and they're okay, but you can tell that Brad Thor's not military because he says things like clip in his,
Instead of magazine.
Yeah, just like little things, and that's fine. Like I can put that aside, but they switched audiobook authors on like the third book, and I was like, I can't do it. I'm done. So
I was surprised what an effect it had on me.
Huge effect.
I was like,
yep, huge effect. You get used to it. You're like,
I'll be right back. My ferocity kicking in.
Do we pause?
No, you guys keep talking. Because the camera will just be on YouTube.
You still got your mic on.
I know. I'll pee quietly.
Do you want to pause or you want to keep going?
We'll keep going. It's all right. I can edit it out.
Yeah.
But that the one thing that it bugged me, and I just got through editing the episode where we first got these, and we were talking about the terminal list, because it's Jack Carr, but in the terminal list, I got a kick out of it because it was like he was name dropping. He was very descriptive, like, I went to the bean counter and had some coffee. Not quite my Black Rifle that I'm used to. And but after a while, you get used to it, and you kind of like it. You get to where, okay, that's kind of cool. He's telling you, giving you all the nomenclature stuff. And I remember when I posted it on Instagram about the book. I just finished my audiobook, The Terminal List, and while listening to it in my 2008 Hummer, on my Pioneer Next 800 unit. I just went through and listed everything. But it was, I liked the way his style of writing, and especially I haven't read the last one, but the one right before that one were the computer. And he's getting these messages, and it's that AI central computer.
It gets even crazier.
Yeah, it's so cool though. Oh, he's back.
But yeah, I like his style of writing, even though it's a very different style from anything that I would do, or like, and that's what I think is interesting about him is he definitely. And this isn't an insult, because to me, simple writing is the best writing, and it's harder to be simple. It's a lot easier to be flourishing with your words, but he keeps it simple. And he is selective with the words he uses. His chapters are not unnecessarily long. He has lots of chapters. He does a scene and then he's basically out. It's a very different style. I suspect. I suspect he put a lot of thought into that style, and I suspect that when the editor first saw it, they probably wanted him to do it differently, because it is a different feel, and but it works for him. Like you stay with it. And the other thing about the many chapters is I think it encourages reading more, because. Think about it. When you open up, whether it's a written book or an audiobook, and you see a chapter is like 40 pages, or it's like, 30 minutes,
Yeah.
which happens sometimes. And you're like, 30 minutes? Like, what the hell is happening in this chapter? But his, it's like you open a chapter and sometimes it's like 90 seconds. And you're like, 90 seconds? But a scene that advanced the story happens in there. So I really dig it. I'm a huge fan. And I wrote him recently to tell him that, his book was excellent, but he really is putting on a master class in storytelling now. And he was very appreciative.
They're excellent books. And it's hard for me to get into a book because I had a JFK book. It was called A Life Like No Other.
Mm-hmm.
And that was maybe 2010 when I was reading it. And I would get up early in the morning and go to the shop just so I could sit there and read the book. It was so good. And it's hard for me to get into a book like that. But The Terminal List, it just immediately it got me. So that just makes you want to read the rest of them.
Yeah, they're excellent. He's a great writer.
You were at a book signing yesterday for another guy.
I was. Yesterday I was at, I was at Andy Stump's book signing. And,
what's his background?
Andy was a member of DevGru or SEAL Team 6, whatever you want to call it. He was wounded and, it took a lot of time to recover. Then he became an officer and a SEAL, then got out, then became, an elite base jumper, wingsuiter. He's done a ton of stuff.
Right.
His story is ridiculous. But
Didn't he do the squirrel suits where they fly off the cliff? That's insane, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my Lord.
Yep. And so he's got this superhero story.
But his second book wasn't really like that, right?
He's never done. This is his first book.
Oh, this is his. I didn't know that.
Yeah, this was his first book.
Wow.
Yep.
And he went a completely different direction. You were saying, right?
Yeah. I like it when people write books that are not like every other book. And so with Drown Proof, when I started, usually it's like, especially the structure of his book is very, at first glance, it's very Jocko, like, hey, this chapter is about this thing. You're going to learn about this thing. And Jocko is so formulaic. And I don't mean that, again, none of these things are insulting. These are just their style.
It's just a different style.
Jocko will be like, here's my theme. I'm going to beat this theme into your head. I'm going to give you an example of the theme. You're going to think about this theme.
And when it's over, you're going to understand.
When it's over, you have mastered the theme. So I thought the way that his book was structured, that Andy was going to go the same route. But what happens is he starts talking about a thing, but then he brings up another thing, and he brings up another thing. And at first I was a little thrown off by it. But then you realize that the dude is just having a conversation the same way that he would on his podcast. So the book is essentially an 8-chapter conversation, but in every chapter, there is a core theme about something that has happened to him or, that he's done or whatever. And they were very personal without being too, there I was,
right.
neck deep in grenade pins. And I really enjoyed it. I read that book, I think, in 3 nights.
Wow.
So,
what do you think is, because everybody's writing books now, what do you think is the key to making them successful now? Because so many books have been written about the same thing. You know what I mean?
I don't know if everyone's writing books. There have always been a lot of books written, and most books are not successful.
Right.
So
I don't think people understand that either, that they're not.
Yes, most books, and again, when I say fail, there's no such thing as a failed book, right? Completing a book is incredibly hard. I've done it twice. I'm working on a third right now. It takes a lot of work. So anybody that's finished a book, whether it's done well or not, I have a lot of respect for that. If you do it right, the first thing is writing it, right? So structuring it, I'll take a step back. If you structure a book incorrectly, you're not going to write the book the right way. And so a lot of people that are doing it for the first time, they have this idea and they just write. They just write and write and write, and they finish a book. and they think it's great because they did it, and it is for them. But if they didn't take the time to structure it, the story's going to be off. It's not going to flow for the reader. It's going to be confusing. And it takes so much time to finish a book that they're not going to take that well. So the best thing that you can do if you're trying to write a book is structure it first and write a chapter or two. So what I mean structure it, it's like, here's my story arc. We're going to start here. We're going to end here. Here's what's going to happen in between. Here's what's going to happen in every chapter. Get feedback on that. And anybody that's been in the book world, or even a friend that understands storytelling, can look at this and say, you know, the big thing has to happen a little later or a little earlier, or you got to have some, you know, more pieces that add to this here.
You got to the point too fast. You need some more background.
Yeah. So you figure out what the story is before you start trying to tell it. Once you know what the story is, you write a couple of chapters and then you share those and you get feedback on those and really go into it with an open mind. It doesn't mean you have to listen to people. You know, so for example, the first feedback that I got for Scars was, you know, biographies are usually not written in the first person present. I don't think you should do it that way, blah, blah, blah. And I disagreed, and we ended up doing it that way, and it worked incredibly well. You know, that book has done 350,000 copies or something.
Wow.
But there were other things that people said, like, I don't like the way you're doing, you know, you're working too hard here. You're getting too verbose, like make it more staccato. And those were things that I thought were good. And so rewrote those chapters and did that a few times until I felt like, okay, these are good chapters. Then once I had 2 good chapters, I had now programmed my brain to, this is what the voice is going to be through the book. So now it was easier to write the rest of the book, even though, you know, it was new material because you had chosen the voice. And I did that for, you know, with Eric Tanzi's book as well.
Which was a completely different style of book, right?
Completely different style of
but
book.
It's doing well, right?
It's done really well. Yep.
And what's the difference? What made Eric's book so different than other books?
What I think makes a great nonfiction book is the author willing to be honest about their failings as well as their successes. You know, if you read any politician's book, there's a reason they always suck. It's because
everything they do is great.
Everything they do is great. They were the smartest, they were the wisest. Sure, they'll put in a couple of like minor failures just so that you know, they think it makes them human. But, you know, I don't know a single person that's actually successful that hasn't had catastrophic moments in their life that were their fault. Like I've made huge mistakes that were definitely my fault. And so with Tanzi, the thing that I think makes Tanzi magical in general, just truly as a human being, is he has no fear of telling people that he was not the best. And, you know, I mean,
he owns his mistakes.
But almost to the point of, like, you have to build him up as a human. Because
he self-deprecates so much.
He's the guy that's like, I'm not good enough sometimes, you know, and he actually is. So with Pig Latin, I got to meet all of the main characters except for one. Officer Sirius is the only one that I haven't met in person.
Really? After the book was written or before? During?
During. And then since, I still haven't met the guy.
Right.
But all the other officers, this is what they all said in their own way. I didn't know how you were going to tell these stories truthfully without you looking like a jackass. And they were like, oh shit, you did tell these stories truthfully because you let yourself look like a jackass. But, you know, everybody that I talked to, and you know, like my dad, for example, he's a prolific reader.
And did he read Pig Latin?
Yes, and he said what what I loved about Pig Latin is that I believed every story, and I just started feeling so bad for Eric, and I was just rooting for him the whole time, and he's like, honestly, like I wanted him to win bigger at the end, you know, like I wanted more for him because I feel like he worked really hard and he didn't get what he deserved, and you know, but that is the reality of his life, and he wasn't afraid to do that.
And even now that the book's been successful, he still is. And that's what's so amazing about Eric is it's like.
Well, Eric is like, you know, the book is in the top 3%.
But I didn't get on Fox and Friends.
So Pig Latin is in the top 3% of all book sales. You know, there's kind of a chart like,
right.
Hey, this many books sell this many, you know, so he looks at like Scars and Stripes, or he looks at like Andy Stumpf's book, Drown Proof, that just came out, and you know, they're in the top 1%, really the top 0.05% of all books. You know, like truly, you know, almost no books do 100,000, almost no books do 250,000, almost, you know, that's not common. So he looks at his and he says, well, I'm only in the top 3%. Like I failed. And I was like, it's like, that's a 97, motherfucker. You know, like, that's good.
And you were a nobody.
And I don't want to say,
he's like a everyday regular guy.
He's a regular guy.
Has been in extraordinary situations.
Yes.
And I love him to death. I think he's real. He's down to earth. He's the nicest guy in the world.
He's a fantastic person. He's a great dad. He works hard. He deserves success, and it's coming his way. And I think one of the things that's great about Pig Latin is it has not slowed down.
Oh, is that right?
Has not slowed down. It actually
awesome.
It actually goes up every once in a while, because which is what you want. There's two grades, right? There's two grades. There's the how does it do in that first week of sales, you know, when it's out. That's the marketing grade. That's the do you know how to sell a book?
Can you do pre-sales? Can you
do pre-sales? Can you make videos? Can you get on podcasts? Can you do all that? So that was the first, you know, and Eric was up against it with that because, you know, that was at the same time where I was going through, you know, a lot of the drama with, with Scars, that you know, I don't want to get into that, but that was not helpful for me booking Eric things.
Right.
And the other thing is the book came out right before the election. So
a lot of attention on the election.
Nobody wanted anything that wasn't election related. I mean, we hired a fantastic couple of ladies to do our PR. They did a great job. They worked their butts off, and they couldn't book anything.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, we got on I don't want to say it like that. We got on a few things.
But because of the elections, they wanted every podcast, every show wanted election things.
Yes. And normally I can kind of get on just about any of the things.
Right.
But it was such a bad time, and Eric was a little bit of an unknown quantity. So everything was like a favor. It's like, hey, can you put Eric on? You know, so he was up against it. We still did very well. It was still a successful book. But so that's the first test. That's just, are you a marketer? That's got nothing to do with, is this book good? But the next piece is, how does it do once it's out? And that's where Eric is thriving. The book keeps getting shared. He's been asked to speak at a couple of police events.
Really?
Yep. They're using some police departments are using his book as like a teaching guide for what it's really going to be like, for the challenges you might have, you know.
Because his book is as raw.
It's raw
as it can be. If you want to know what it's like to be a police officer, read Pig Latin.
And it's funny too. So I think with that added humor, people retain that. You know, if you can make somebody laugh, they're going to retain that.
Yeah.
A lot more so than just reading a regular story. I went into this house and, you know, this, but
it's one of the funniest things I've ever read.
It's really good.
It's goddamn ridiculous.
I mean,
I know you don't want me to blaspheme, but
no, but you're right. It is.
it's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous
Every
book.
chapter is like,
Yes. And I convinced him to pull chapters. I'll just tell you that. And I was like, we can't do this. And he was like, why? This is a great chapter. And I was like, man, this is like, you've got a wife and kids. Like, we can't do this. You know? And he's still mad about it. He was bitching about it yesterday. But no, I mean, I obviously I'm biased because I was part of the writing process for that book, but you cannot go wrong with Pig Latin. Like it
is a great book.
The number of people that read it begrudgingly, thinking they were going to get something else, you know, the number, if you go and you look at his reviews, there's like 24 that start with, look, I'm a liberal and I only started reading this so that I could
hate it.
And then they're like, but I gotta say, you know, so yeah, that was a great experience. It was a great experience.
So what is your advice for someone that wants to write a book, Nick? Besides, don't do it.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say don't do it. It's a really rewarding experience. It's just hard. Like all things, to do it well, it's hard.
But in the process, okay, I want to write a book. What's my process? What would you tell me to do?
Yeah. So the first question you have to ask yourself is, am I trying to self-publish this, or do I want to get this into a publishing house? Okay. If you're writing nonfiction, the process is you put together the structure. So you do a one-pager, this is what the book is. Then you have your marketing plan, this is how I'm going to sell it. Then you have your chapters laid out. These are my chapters, and you have like a 1 to 2 paragraph about each chapter. Then you have 2 to 3 completed chapters at the end. That is used to pitch literary agents because publishing houses will only receive books from literary agents. They cannot receive them directly from you. And so...
just like doing a script for a movie.
Yes. So you have to find a literary agent, and the best thing that you can do is you find books that you really like, that you think your book is like, and then you go and try to pitch literary agents that pitched those books. If you get a literary agent, then that agent is going to pitch them to the Big Seven and whoever else. And and if they like it, they'll make you an offer, and you can say yes or no. And then if you say yes, they will give you a timeline. You need to have, the completed manuscript done by this period of time, and we expect to launch it at this period of time.
When does money become involved?
Once you have a deal,
with a publisher through an agent.
That's right.
Okay.
Once you have a deal, you will get 1/3 of the money of your advance. So let's say the advance is 30 grand. Okay, you'll get 10 grand when you sign. Then you'll get 10 more grand when you turn in the completed manuscript. Then you get 10 grand on the 1-year anniversary. I'm sorry, 4 payments. 4 payments. Let's call it 40, so my math stays the same. You'll get 10 grand when the book comes out, and then you'll get 10 grand at the 1-year anniversary of the book coming out. After that, you will get paid twice a year if you've covered your advance. If you don't cover your advance, you'll never see another dime. But if you've covered your advance, then every 6 months, you'll get a check for whatever your particular percentage is, usually 15% of 15% of hardcover and like 30% of audio every 6 months.
Gets writing.
Or you self-publish and you keep more of the money.
But it's harder.
It is, well, your chance of making the list of any list, if that's important to you, becomes almost zero.
Because you don't have a publisher behind you pushing it, is that why?
Yeah, because the formula to get on, for example, the New York Times bestseller list, Amazon's not enough.
Oh, really?
You have to sell it in
bookstores.
You have to sell in bookstores. You have to have a certain percentage in books. There's so many different things.
Do publishers, if you get a certain publisher, does that guarantee that you get into all bookstores or all?
No.
It doesn't, right?
There is no guarantee of anything. There are people. So this is a crazy fact that I didn't even realize. The average book that is sold to a big publisher, I'm talking about Penguin and Simon and Schuster and you name your poison. The average book that goes to a big publisher never does 500 copies.
What?
That's the average is 500 copies. So that's why when people feel bad about, I only sold 1,000 or something.
You're like,
you're crazy. Like, that's good. So, I ended up in a weird situation where my very first book with Tim, because of Tim and who he is, and because, we built a huge marketing campaign around it and spent money on that marketing.
Right.
It was a top 0.01%.
Right off the bat.
Yeah, I mean it's done, like I said, like 350,000 copies. That is not common. Now, if you want to do fiction, the process is similar, but you also have to write the whole book.
Oh, before you get anything.
Yes, you can't pitch fiction unless you're a special writer.
Unless you're like Lee Childs, and you're
well, once you're those guys, that's different.
Yeah,
that's
okay.
different. But you have to not only provide the whole first book, but oftentimes they want to know that you're partially done with the second book because
no kidding.
Yes, with fiction they need to know that you can do it because there's so many people that have stories they want to write, but also the money for them is not in an individual book, it is in a series.
So there's really no one-off in fiction.
There still are.
Oh,
There still are. But they're usually artsy book houses that pick those up. Again, it all comes down to what do you want.
right.
If you're trying to get rich writing, which I don't recommend that at all. But if you're trying to get rich writing, then the pathway to being rich writing is fiction in a genre that audiences read heavily and where there's a repeatable thing. So you're talking about military fantasy,
True crime,
sci-fi fantasy,
Russian
true crime,
mafia porn,
detective,
right,
and women's, sexual
right,
related books.
My daughter Courtney, she got an agent, and it's like Russian mafia porn.
Okay.
I am not shitting you. And
where a woman gets involved with a Russian mafia don or something.
She was like researching the tattoos, the Russian mob tattoos and stuff, and she reads like crazy. She's always reading, and she decided she wanted to write, and she sent it in, and she got an agent.
Awesome.
So I don't know. We'll probably need somebody working at the coffee shop. She's going to quit.
Oh my God, that'd be terrible for you.
I know it, but she's always been that way. Since grade school, she reads like crazy, and it doesn't matter what it is because I gave her all the Terminal List series, and she probably read them in a week. Because that's just the way she is. She's,
you wouldn't think that people are
books.
still reading books, but they are, aren't they?
I mean, my kids, my two youngest sons, they read, at least a book a week.
See, that's great.
At least.
That's crazy.
That's great.
Because nowadays, like my youngest daughter, she's like, I'll wait for the movie. She does not like reading.
You got to read, I'm completely forgetting, but so many people have said this, so I'm going to attribute it to nobody, but a lot of great people have said this. Basically, if you don't read, then you are doomed to only, and this is fiction or nonfiction, you are doomed to only gather the information from the experiences that you've lived.
Yeah.
And I don't care what anybody says. There's too much data now that shows that if you read a book about a topic, let's say something arbitrary, like George Washington, right? The people that argue, well, I can just Google about George Washington. Well, yeah, you can Google and get the top hits and get facts and get, these things without context.
And a lot of it's things that people want you to think about.
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
they have that power. They can put it out there on the thing.
But if you go
it
read
makes sense.
Ron Chernow, Washington, A Life, and invest the 1,000 pages into, where it's, based off of all these primary sources, but he puts Washington in as a character, and you're following, you understand who he is and how he was in these situations and why he reacted the way he did and why he made the decisions, which then informs, why was it important to him that a president only have 2 terms? Why was it, why did he walk away from, why did he create the Jay Treaty, even though he got lambasted for it? Like you start understanding at a level that you can only understand if you're sitting with something for hours, because your brain's running in the background while you're dealing with the same material. It's the same reason why, I can ask ChatGPT to, engineer something for me, but that's not the same thing as understanding why a bridge requires certain things in order to stay standing. And without owning the knowledge and being able to pull it from your own memory, you don't actually understand it. So there are studies that are showing that people that are heavily reliant on ChatGPT or Claude or whatever for all tasks, they actually they lose the ability to analyze information. They become dumber, and they're not sure. Scientists are not sure if once you go so far. I'm not talking about people that use it here and there. I'm talking about if you use it for everything to remove the hard process of thinking and analyzing,
or looking it up or studying it, or
you actually lose the ability to solve problems, which is, they think, one of the reasons why this generation right now is the first generation in human history that is testing at a lower IQ than the previous. Up until this current generation, every generation previous has been smarter. I'm Gen X. I think you're Gen X. I think, and
66.
And you're, I don't know what
He's
you are.
Gen A.
Gen A. You were the first generation.
I'm an A.
But like millennials are smarter than we are.
Yeah.
Well,
just ask them.
It's not Gen Z. It's not true.
Yeah.
So how did that happen? It's this idea that you can just look up information, and that makes, I just Googled it, you're wrong. Well, no, you don't actually understand all of the things that are involved in whatever.
Can you tell me in what way I am wrong? And they can't.
Yeah, it's like, here's a real simple way that I think a lot. I've been grappling since 1987. That doesn't mean I'm a great grappler, but I'm not terrible. A kid watching a video of a move that I've done 100,000 times in my life, no matter how good the video is not going to actually understand the move the way that I understand the move. It just isn't going to happen. There are so many subtle nuances that involve the feel of, okay, this guy just tried to do this. I have to move my hip a little bit. I got to put pressure here. I can say all of it in a video, but that doesn't mean
you don't have any idea what the other guy's going to do.
Hollywood's given me a ton of classes on lighting. I understand the principles of lighting. I promise that if you ask Nick Palmisciano and Hollywood Hurd to light the same scene, even if he fucking tells me this is how I want you to do it and then leaves, mine's not going to be as good. Why is that? I don't have the reps.
Yeah.
I don't.
I haven't-
You don't have the mistakes. You
Yes.
don't. That's what it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
You don't have the mistakes.
Yes.
I've made 1,000 mistakes,
Yes.
but
So
I don't make them twice. But then I make a new mistake, and then
So-
I don't make that mistake. That's the key to
yes.
it.
So what I think is happening right now, just in general, is we have placed information at a premium over expertise. And right now, you just watched Microsoft just fired 10,000 people. Apple fired however many thousand. I forget. There's been a few that have just fired a bunch of people lately. And the whole thing is, well, AI is going to take over, and AI at this point it's just a language learning model. I catch AI because I use it for all kinds of analysis, mostly analysis. I like because it can analyze quickly. It fucks up all the time.
All the time.
All the time. And because I am an expert in the things I'm asking it about, and I just want it to do it, I already know roughly what the answer is. I just want it to get into. So when it's wrong, I'm like, no, you're wrong. I want you to look at this again, and then it'll come back. Oh crap, I just XYZ, whatever.
Yeah.
If you don't have expertise, AI is just a tool that's going to make you look stupid, get people killed if it's something like engineering. All these high-end law firms that are getting in trouble because AI, when it can't find case law,
Makes up its own.
or pulls it from fucking movies. Somebody just got in trouble. I think the lawyer might be disbarred because I think it was like they quoted something from like My Cousin Vinny, and they thought it was real, And it's like what New Zealand. Deloitte just had to pay New Zealand or Australia just had to return millions of dollars because they didn't do the analysis like there weren't people doing the analysis. They just asked ChatGPT and the fucking prompts were still in the report that Australia had paid like $3 million for, and again, I'm not saying you don't use it as a tool, but it should be a tool.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
anyway, going back to the core point, if you don't read and you don't spend time with the information, you don't master the information and you don't truly understand it. And just because somebody in the comments of a social media post can be like, blah, throw like you're wrong, here's a link. Like that doesn't mean anything most of the time.
Yeah.
Do you think, like, for the same reason that millennials are so smart, which a lot of it is because of technology, but they used it as a tool.
They used it as a tool.
And now the next generation are using it just constantly. It's not a tool for them. It's the go-to gospel.
Yeah.
I know that my knowledge that I have comes from all the reading I've done. If I hadn't continued to read once I got out of school,
Yep.
I wouldn't have the knowledge base that I have on all the different subjects that I have knowledge about.
I think, my generation, I think we got shit on as far as technology because we had already grown up, and then the internet happened, and you're like, oh, what's this? Oh, look, you can find porn on here. That's about all we use it for.
So I was late Gen X, and I started. My parents bought us a Tandy 1000 SX PC.
Tandy.
Yep, Radio Shack.
Radio
brand.
Shack.
And
TRS-80.
I was completely smitten, and so I taught myself to program, in using PC Magazine, and by the time I got to high school, we had a computer class there where they were teaching, essentially BASIC and Pascal, maybe some Fortran, and I already knew those languages cold. And the last thing your senior year, this was like an AP class. It was like you have to make a game, and most people were making.
There he goes again.
Most people were making. Yeah, he just walks away. He gets bored. He just leaves us. Anyway, long story short, I remade the Oregon Trail with a buddy of mine, but we made the whole Oregon Trail game with Smurfs.
Oh, really?
We made the whole game. And when I went to college, they literally had no classes that I had not already mastered. So I graded out of all computer classes. And so that was like my, I was a total computer nerd. Then I was in the Army and I, kind of walked away from it. But the kids that came after me were on a whole different level. And they were, they had left the languages that we started mastering in, that we had kind of, we were sharing. Back then it was bulletin board services. They were called BBSs. Yeah. So we had shared, all of our knowledge with each other there. Like, I have this problem and here's what I'm trying to figure out. And this is like, for those of you that don't know, a BBS, it's kind of like a precursor to the internet. Somebody would have a computer with maybe, and this is going to sound hilarious now, like a 200 megabyte hard drive, but they didn't have drives that big at the time. So it would be like a stack of 5 40 megabyte hard drives. And you could dial into their modem and they'd have multi lines in one place. So multiple people could call into their modem and have like a chat room. And so only hardcore nerds even knew what that was. But that's how we would trade coding ideas and like, hey, I'm trying to do this. How can I do it? And you had handles back then, and my handle was Phantom, just so you guys know. I felt like a total badass at the age of 12, 13. But the next generation, that's where you had C++ and Visual Basic and things started to go to a next. So I used to watch those kids and go like, man, like they're so much better than I was. Well, now they don't even have that understanding. The newest people, I'm not talking about the hardcores. The hardcores are still freaks, right? The top 1% of programmers. But I can use Claude or ChatGPT now to program very complex things. I've built, I just bought RangerUp back 6 months ago, and I've already built 3 or 4 custom pages that look fantastic.
Yeah, the website?
Yeah.
Oh, the changes are awesome. And that's great.
Well, but that would have cost me 20 G's.
Yeah. I
did it with literally with Claude and ChatGPT.
Wow.
I respect programming, but I don't need to pay people to do that. And so I've got a buddy that runs a very high end, he worked on Twitter, he worked on Truth Social. He's a real hardcore programmer. And he said that even in his shop, the first 80% of every job is now done with AI. And the last 20%, especially around security, is done with people. So AI has a hard time creating something that's never been created, but it does a fantastic job of building anything that looks remotely like anything that's been done before.
Yeah.
So anyway, where I'm going with all this is...
So I don't have to use my Microsoft front page anymore.
You don't.
Create my website.
You don't. But the problem though is, when I think back to my life, the challenges that I had as a kid trying to learn how to program. Why isn't this loop working? Why is the Smurf moving right instead of left? I put a +1 pixel on every time you push the arrow key instead of a -1. Like, you can see that's a real thing that happened. It's still with me now.
Right.
I had to solve these problems. All of that is gone. Now I can just say, chat, fix this. So it's not that it's important that I know how to do exactly the thing that I had to solve. But what is important is I had to learn how to solve the problem. I had to get that baseline knowledge. They aren't really hiring young programmers anymore unless they are elite.
Yeah.
So that means that the regular person that has affinity for this can't get into it. And what I think is going to happen, this is what I personally think is going to happen with AI. AI is making about $5 billion a year and costing about $300 billion a year. So that's 60x in the wrong way. That's not sustainable. At some point, people are going to say, I don't want to spend this anymore. So they're either going to need to start charging a fuckload of money for AI and fast, or it's going to go away. And it's only going to be a tool that's used by defense contractors, NASA, and government. And then we're going to be left with a generation that has no
It's
skill.
less intelligent and
Has no skill.
has no skills.
Yeah, this generation has. They have some challenges ahead of them.
That's some Planet of the Apes shit.
Yeah.
It's funny because I was in the military from 82 to 94. And that's when computers came out.
We had 1 year where we were in the military together, Hollywood.
I know it, right? And I was flying, so I never looked at a fucking computer. For my entire time in the military, I was never on a computer. Except,
Which is wild, because if you think about what planes have in them now.
Yeah, except maybe for emails. I think emails came out in maybe, I don't remember, maybe 89, maybe to the military.
Email was
Mostly just colleges, wasn't it?
94, 93, 94, there were Unix emails.
Right.
And maybe earlier, maybe the government earlier than
Right.
that. But for regular people, 93, 94 is when Unix email.
Right.
And then email, kind of like we think about it, was more like 96.
And so then I'm in the movie business now, where we didn't use computers. That's why I don't know fucking shit about Excel and all that stuff. That's why I have so much trouble now. It's because I never use that stuff.
Yeah.
You know? And for everybody else, it's just common knowledge. Everybody was taught that in school. Everybody would, you know.
Yeah, but most people are still bad at it. That's the thing, is like you have the misfortune of working with me where like my spreadsheets are like,
Right.
they're extensive.
Right. But you know what I'm saying? For me, it's like,
I'll tell you.
how the fuck do I catch up?
I'll tell you a great story. I don't want to blow him up, but he tells the story. So when I first started RangerUp, my COO, and I say COO because we all gave ourselves grandiose titles, but we weren't.
Tom Amintra?
Yeah, Tom. So Tom Tom's a real businessman now, so he's a stud. I'm not giving him crap. But when he was a young, you know, he had been an E5 in the Ranger Regiment and had just graduated college, and was
he still in the military? Or he was out now.
He was out.
He was out.
He was out, and you know, he was crashing on my couch and you know, getting paid whatever I could afford to pay him, and we had this dream together, and we're trying to make it all work. But he was running operations, and so the way he was ordering things was kind of like, we need this, so I'm going to order some. And I was like, hey man, we got to get this to another level. You know, he was like, why? It's working. I was like, it is, but hopefully we grow, and we're going to have to do this with some, you know, so I was like, I want you to use Excel. This is still one of the funniest things I've ever seen. And so we had maybe like 150 products or something. And he was like, fine, I'm going to use Excel. And he calls me over and he's like, all right, it's done. And he's got this Excel sheet, and it's like quantity, you know, like style, quantity, amount we need to order, you know, whatever. And I was like, oh, you know, these aren't filled in here. And he's like, oh crap. And he breaks out a calculator and he starts doing the math on them and then typing it in. I'm like, Tom, what I'm going to show you right now
is going to blow your mind.
It's not all, like you're going to love it and hate me all at the same time. This poor bastard had spent hours, just
filling in the spaces, then computing everything.
He had hand jammed it and thought, like, why is Nick this, you know, he's like, because he would say, this is officer
What's
shit.
so great about this?
He's like, why, what difference does it make that it's in this spreadsheet? And then I was like, I'm going to start fresh, buddy. And I just dragged down the essential multiplication, and it did it. And he was like, what the fuck? And so it's not like everybody out there is a master of this stuff, but it is important. Like, you learn the tools, you can do a lot more. You can get to answers faster, and in business, the faster you can get to good decisions, the better you're going to do.
And other people can see what's going on.
Yes.
That's the thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't need to do a prop list. I don't need to do it's all here. But that doesn't help you when you've got a bunch of people helping you.
It does not help. Yep.
Yeah, and I finally have realized that, and I understand it. But it was hard because, you know, what are you most excited about now?
Man, I'm excited about lots of things. Like, I like what I do. You know, it's exciting. It's exciting to have RangerUp back. I'm also glad I lost RangerUp. And I know that sounds weird, but you know, 6 years ago, I did a deal that brought private equity in as the majority owner of RangerUp, and the intention was, you know, and this is a similar deal to what Black Rifle did. It's a similar deal to what Grunt Style did, you know, where big money guys came in because the challenge that I had in the
They saw successful companies,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Hey, let's get in on this."
Well, it's not even that. It's, you know, probably the first, you know, the first 12 years of RangerUp, every time we grew, I had a massive challenge of how do I get the money to grow? And so it was people don't understand how hard, when you're growing fast, that's the most dangerous time because you need to invest all the money you're making and maybe and then some into inventory to keep up with growth. And so, you know, at a few points in my life, I was signed for over $1 million in debt financing for T-shirts.
Nick Palmisciano.
Yeah. And so that's tremendous stress. And I was making other decisions. I had too many employees. I had employees that weren't doing their job, but I felt loyalty to, which is a mistake that I've made a few times in my life. I mean, these are all common entrepreneurial mistakes. Like, you look at your company as a family, and there are people that deserve that, you know, deserve that treatment. Like when I think of like Tom Hunt, when I think of Pokey, you know, and these are guys, you know, that have been with me forever. Like, they deserve more, the benefit of the doubt.
Because they could have gone somewhere else.
They could have gone somewhere else. They've been through things with me in tough times. Like, they've fought the fight. But when you extend yourself for people that treat it as just a job and they're not doing their job, that's stupid. And I've done that. You know, we were talking about mistakes that you make. Like, I've done that. Giving people unearned loyalty, similar to if you're shitty to them, if you're not good to them as a boss, they don't owe you anything. Like, it's, you know, everybody, you know, it's a job, right? But, you know, when they go above and beyond, you owe them more. That's the way that I look at it. But, you know, after 12 years, 13 years, whatever it was that I ran it the first time, and, you know, kind of riding that, how am I going to make it work? There were so many times like, how am I going to make it work? And it was never that we were failing. It was, we had grown, we needed something. I didn't have the cash. How was I going to get it? It took it out of you. And so I had watched, you know, my friend Evan Hafer take on a multi-million-dollar investment. I had watched Grunt Style take on a multi-million-dollar investment, and I watched Grunt Style go from being smaller than us to being, you know, $100 million company. I had watched Black Rifle go from being smaller than us to, you know, $1 billion company. And it was like, you know, they weren't at that size yet, but I watched the acceleration. It was like, man, we just need money. And so we had the opportunity to take on this investment. And with that, you know, I lost the controlling share of the company, just like those guys had. And we had 1 year where we doubled the business, and I was like, we're off to the races. But it becomes a different thing when the big dogs bring the money in. And
because they have no loyalty to the brand,
none. It's an
none whatsoever.
It's an investment. And, you know, they would tell, you know, we got to hit these numbers, and you'd have to hit them. And that wasn't the problem. But the problem was things like, you know, they would say, you have too many, you know, fire these people. They would say, you know, why are we giving this money to charity? and you're like, well, that's what we do. Like, that's a big part of our brand. And it's like, well, this doesn't help the bottom line. And this is not me crapping on anybody.
It's just
right?
how it is.
It's, one of the things my dad said before I did the deal is just understand that their goals are not your goals, no matter what they say. And I don't think I really understood it until it was too late. Because I'm thinking, we can turn this into the next great brand. You're thinking like Nike. You're thinking, and I don't mean that.
No, but still, yeah.
But like, let's take it to the next level where we can do some really cool stuff. And it was an 8-figure company, so it was like a meaningful company that was on its way to good things. And also, for the first time, I was not worried about signing for a shitload of money where if it all went bad, it was going to bankrupt me. It was a nice, like, that was nice. But then, and when I say all this, like, I don't have any friction with the people that bought it. There's no beef, but I was not enjoying my job anymore. And I didn't feel, one of the things that was important to me always with RangerUp, and I have it on my LinkedIn. I've had it on my LinkedIn for years. It's give back more to the community than you take. I really believe that has to be what you do. And I didn't think that RangerUp, after the acquisition, was doing that anymore. And I wasn't having fun. And so I had an obligation of a year, and I did that year, and then I talked to my wife, and I was like, I think I'm done. And I had a couple of people that were interested in hiring me at a pretty big number to be their CMO, and I wasn't going to have to be on the hook for the, and I was like, you know what, like, I think this chapter is over. And the kind of the thing that kicked that off is they said, I need you to, this was right as COVID was starting. So, we want you to, we're worried about this disease thing that's coming. It hasn't hit here yet, but it's going to hit. We want you to fire, 15%, 10% of your staff.
And then the rest have to move to Ohio or something, right?
Well, that happened later. So,
okay.
So I said, well, I don't want to do that. We just doubled. And, they kind of said, well, we don't care. We're making every business in the portfolio do it. And so I was like, well, just, I'll step down, and, I make more than those 2 people that you're talking about, 3 people that you're talking about firing. So, you're good. And then when I stepped down, they laid off everybody. And so, that pissed me off. And that's how Diesel Jack started.
Yeah.
So, I went home, I talked to some friends and said, what do you think I'm good at? And everybody kind of said marketing and storytelling. And so I dreamed up this, this marketing company, Diesel Jack Media. I named it after my Jack Russell that had just passed. The premise was, he's the toughest dog I'd ever met, even though he was small, like he never quit, and I liked that. I liked that it was a good homage to him. And so started Diesel Jack Media. I hired all my old employees, even though we didn't have any clients. And 10 months later, we made our first $1 million. So, and we've been going now for 6 years. So 6 months ago, so the private equity group that had bought RangerUp, their portfolio got bought out by a larger company named Hyper, and their CEO reached out to me 6 months ago and was like, "Hey, I think you're the guy that owned this before, right? And it used to be pretty big." And I said, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, we've hired, these guys, the guys that owned it before, they've hired 3 different agencies to try to run it.
I don't know what to do with it.
It's never worked. I don't know what to do with it. Do you want it back?" And I said, well, it hadn't even occurred to me that there was a chance that I would ever get it back. said, well, what does that deal look like? And he gave me a fantastic deal on it. And really what he fundamentally wanted was to produce for the brand and, you know, make the apparel. And you know, I believed him. I said, you know, if you give me a contract that says exactly what we just talked about, then we'll do it. And he gave me a contract that was exactly what we just talked about, signed it, and took over RangerUp on September 1st. And we got a long ways to go to get back to where we were, but, you know, we're 12 times bigger right now than when I bought it 6 months ago. And
That's awesome.
and we're starting to do really good things again. And, you know, we're hiring veterans. And
Are you having fun?
Do you think?
I'm having fun.
Yeah.
I'm having fun. And one of the things I think is really important too is the 6 years away from it, I'm approaching it differently.
Yeah.
RangerUp and me were interchangeable 6 years ago, and it was too far. And you've done more businesses than I have, so
Well, no, not on that scale, but yes, like when I did the electronic stuff, the whole reason I started the coffee shop was because I was falling out of love with the other thing, and I thought, well, let's do something. Maybe it'll take my mind off of it and rekindle that. But the coffee shop, we were having so much fun, and it just blew up. And I'm not interested in ruling the world with coffee.
Yeah.
If I'm able to give people a good job and everybody's happy and having a good time, that's all that matters.
That's another, what you just said there. And I don't know if it's just getting older or whatever, but like the first time around, it was like, you know, because RangerUp came out in 2006. Grunt Style came out in 2008. I can't remember when Nine Line came out, maybe like 2011 or something. It was a fight. It was like, we're going to be the biggest. It was always a fight.
There was animosity between.
Well,
I don't mean, you know what I mean. Not animosity, not open animosity, but it was like us against them a little bit. Yes.
It was just aggressive competition, right?
Right.
Now, you know, in the last 6 years, I've worked a lot with Tim from Grunt Style.
Right.
You know,
And they've helped with.
Yep. Grunt Style gave us money when we were doing the Afghan evacuation.
Right.
Nine Line gave us money. This is not us, RangerUp, but the nonprofit that I was working on, Save Our Allies. Nine Line gave us money to help out in Ukraine. You know, and so my relationship with those guys became very different. It became, you know, peers working together. They're good people. You know, you see Tim Jensen, you know, all over DC working hard all the time. And so
Because they also grew up.
yeah,
You know?
it's just different. It's different, right? And so, you know, now this time around, it's like, it's in a weird way, it's, you know, we're so much smaller than they all are now because there was nobody driving it to get.
Right.
But in a weird way, it's like we get to go back to being an upstart again. I'm not trying to beat anybody. I'm trying to create a cool little company with, you know, that hires veterans, that does good things, and wherever we end up, whether we end up being big again or whether we kind of stay on the smaller side, like it almost doesn't fucking matter.
I know you don't want to say it doesn't matter, but in a way it doesn't matter. You're happy with the success and seeing it grow.
Yeah.
Without feeling the need that it's got to grow to this.
I'll tell you the difference is now is this in the best interest of the company? Is it in the best interest of the employees? Is it in the best interest of the community? Back then, it got to the point where it was like, I have to win. I mean, I literally would look at like the traffic of the brands every morning, like where's everyone's traffic? And I'd be trying to get my traffic over. And so then you're spending money to, like, it wasn't rational. And it was for a younger man trying to compete and win. And I think, you know, I think because I'm older, like there really is no winning. I have a very good friend. I give him credit whenever I can. His name is Mark Gross. He owns Oak Grove Technology. He is one of the only people that has ever helped me when I was down. A lot of people are around when you're up, but he's a guy that has helped me when I was down and asks for nothing in return, to the point of it's almost a crime how much he does for everybody and doesn't want anything back. We started our businesses at the same time, and we were both faltering entrepreneurs at the same time. Well, I won't. It's a private company, so I'm not going to throw out his numbers. But his business is worth $1 kajillion now. He does government contracting. He's very high level, and he basically said once you get past, making 500, 600, 700K a year, like unless you just have crazy desires that are probably more on the unhinged side, like your life doesn't get better
Because you're still successful.
there's no meaningful difference to the quality of your life. It's like, yeah, you can get a private plane instead of a first class, but like, does it really matter? Like, really not that much. Like, you're renting a yacht if you want to go on a luxury instead of, like it's not meaningful. So like, what are you racing for?
Yeah.
And there are guys that derive happiness from having the biggest number. I'm not one of those guys. I don't even there's no stuff I want. I drive a 12-year-old Jeep. I don't want anything.
Yeah.
I want my kids to be solid.
Mm-hmm.
I want to have, no debt.
Yeah.
Other than that, like I really, I want my wife to keep liking me.
Yeah.
I'm serious. I'm dead serious. You've known me for a while. Like I don't.
That's 100%.
It's the little things, because the little things add up to be so much more than any of the big things, and just the simple shit matters.
Yeah.
And just maintaining your sanity and keeping happy. And like our payroll is the biggest it's ever been, and we had a loss last year. But when I look at the payroll, I'm like, I'm fine with that, because I know we're people are working for me and they're happy and we're doing something, because we can work on the other stuff. And the way the economy is, we're still open. So
Yep.
But it is the little things make a huge difference in comparison to just stupid crap. And I'm in that, because we didn't have a lot when I was little. My dad used to promise me stuff when he was still alive, and never got it. So my mom always said I was playing catch up, because when I had a little bit of success, I would go and I didn't, like, the kids didn't do without. Bills were paid and everything, and then I would look at it and say, well, I can do this. Let's do it.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, but I've grown out of that too, to an extent.
Well, I'm not even criticizing. Like, some people really enjoy having things like
the bestest and the mostest. Yeah.
You like cars, right? Like, that's a thing that makes you it makes you happy to have a nice car.
But see, getting that car was a big process, because I was like, okay, it's this, and I'm gonna have to do this, because I was looking at the maintenance on it, and there's no way I could take it to the dealership and like pay the dealership just to handle the maintenance. And most people that have nice cars, they don't care. They send it off. Well, I did my homework before I got it. So, and I do all the basic maintenance. I know eventually I'm going to have to take it to the dealership, because the computers, whatever. But I still enjoy it. And the wife said, okay. I said, we can do this. It's not going to put us in a spot. And she's like, that's what you want to do. That's fine. So,
for me, it's whatever your thing is. That's what you should put your money in. I think I'm weird because I don't have a thing. I like what I do.
Yeah.
Like, and it doesn't matter
Well,
what
that's
it is.
your thing, though.
Like when we get to make a movie, when we get to make a TV show, and it's not like we get to do it all the time, but when we get to, I love doing that. Like that is huge for me.
Yeah. And
When
the American Legion stuff, it's awesome.
It's great. I love working with the American Legion.
But going along with your philosophy, the American Legion has gotten better because now they're showing what they're doing for people.
Yeah.
And people are seeing that.
Yeah.
And they're seeing the American Legion as a company that helps veterans. And that to me is what has made all the difference in the world to the Legion.
What I like most about working with the American Legion is they are what they say they are. They're good people. And that doesn't mean that they're perfect, right? So there's always people that are gonna, oh, the Legion should be doing this or the Legion should be doing that, right? And some of the criticism is always going to be accurate. It's a giant organization.
Massive.
It's a massive, millions of members. It's a member-run organization. Try to get 10 people to agree on something, never mind.
Well, they are veterans.
Yeah. But no matter where you are with the Legion, no matter whether you're talking about at the national level or at the smallest post in the middle of South Dakota, it's veterans getting together, trying to do good things for their community. And so, when you try to argue about should the Legion be doing X or Y, these are opinions. There's nobody that I've seen, and I'm sure there's always the exception somewhere hidden away. I have not encountered a single person at the American Legion that is trying to do something to enrich themselves or screw over it's like this is a good organization with good people trying to do the right thing. And so I'm lucky that they've selected us to try to help them get the word out. And I feel fortunate that the word is getting out, that they have the most young members that they've had since Vietnam, and all the things that I think we've helped them do.
I think you've helped them. I think Diesel Jack's helped them a whole lot.
I hope so. It seems, it sure seems that way.
But it's like I could still be on the set, sitting in a chair on a walkie-talkie, making what I make when I'm, but I'd rather be here, man. I'd rather be working with my friends, my family.
Yeah.
I'd rather be going and doing, honor flight, and having a 16-hour day with people that are committed, and it's about what's in here, man. It's and the environment that you've created it's just like home. I mean, it's just like we're all working to help each other out, and that's what it's about now.
Yeah, it's a good group of people. This is the best team that I've ever had. This is a great team. I like every member of our team. And I know how hard that is, because it won't last forever. Somebody will leave. Somebody will, it just, that's the way it is. But right now, it's a fantastic team. Yeah. And now, we've got Eric Tansey too,
and 8 veteran influencers.
That's right.
Roaming around.
That's right. Roaming around doing God knows what.
Exactly. Well, Nick, thanks, man. It was a great show.
My pleasure.
We really appreciate it. We're talking about some great things.
Awesome.
And,
My pleasure.
we really appreciate you coming out.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you coming out.
Yeah.
I'm Hollywood Hurd.
I'm Jim Young.
And this has been
The
Smoked Debrief with Nick Palmisciano.